We'll get through it. What's up there, sir? How are you? Happy Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah to you, my friend, and your family. Okay. But, like I said, you just have to be prepared.
Get through it. What's up there, sir? How are you?
You just have to be prepared for everything that happens and everything that goes on, because that's what markets are. It's being prepared, not only with the reading of the tape and the market action, but mentally and emotionally. Everything is about preparation. Okay. We continue to do okay, day trading, although we were 1 and 2. We're in Vegas, but we won the other days and had a good day today. So, at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do. It's a sum total event. Okay. And if you're hedged, then you should be happy about this. I rolled down, some of my hedges rolled down today. I picked up some more shares and okay, good. I'm happy. Again, it doesn't bother me one bit. Okay. I think you just have to be, just prepared. And again, it's not only, prepared with your position, but mentally prepared for everything that happens. And that's something that we always want to make sure. Yes, I do. Thank you. Yes, I am actually. I'm experimenting. Thank you. How'd you know? I think that, I don't know. I think it's probably warranted. I think there was a question about what do I think about the potential attacks. I think that, of course, Biden, no surprise, deserted Israel. Okay. I don't think that's any surprise. I mean, oh, got it. Okay. So, I think that, that's a tragedy. But that was to be expected. I mean, he was never a friend to Israel. Okay. So it's not like I'm shocked that there's problems. Okay. So, again, they're always under attack. And I think that's a tragedy. Okay. Well, that I can't say, but that is correct. And it's funny you mentioned that. You can use your imagination what I'm talking about, but I can't really say what was just written to me. But I had a very interesting limo ride on the airport. Okay, we talked just about that and the damage and the allies that are laughing at us. Okay, because we've given up everything. Okay, now I'm a believer in America, and I think we will make a strong recovery at some point. But again, our allies are laughing. Okay. And that's a tragedy. Okay. We've given up lots of power, and we've given up to probably 3 places that hate us more than anything. Russia, Saudi Arabia, and China. Okay. So, that isn't a very appetizing view. And we've got our own problems in this country filled with BS, filled with overwhelming, tragedy that shouldn't be here. Okay. But of course, when you continue to try to divide the nation, which is exactly what's going on, it creates not good stuff. And that is always a concern. And I think something that we should be, thinking about. And, that always creates. Now, if you've listened to me for any length of time, and you've listened to any of my podcasts and things that I've done for years, you will see that a lot of things that are happening now, I said they would happen. I don't want to be right, but that is, you can kind of see certain things develop because of what's going on. And I think from the BS numbers that are reported to everything else, okay, it creates a much bigger problem and a much bigger tragedy. But again, I think the nation, we are strong. We will get through this like we have gotten through other things in the past. But it is a little bit scary, and certainly scary for not as much for me, but my children, my grandchildren to come someday, I hope. That becomes a much bigger problem. Okay. And those are the things that I find, troubling. Again, I'm old. I mean, where am I going? Okay. But, if you don't think that this country cannot turn into what Venezuela was, though, you better think again, because anything can happen. Okay. And when we continue to ignore, okay, because you can get that new car every 2 years and you can make your monthly payments and you got a job. Well, hey, God bless, but there are other things and there are other people, and we let just a little bit too much stuff slide by. And I think that's a scary thing. What's up there, doctor?
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, welcome aboard. Happy Hanukkah. How was the party?
Fine, thanks.
Good. Okay. Well, we were just talking about some of the things that were going on in the country, and I just said they weren't very good. And of course, what was going on in Israel with the potential bombings and things like that. What are your thoughts?
I think the Fed is gonna accelerate QE this week. I think that's pretty much a given. I think they're gonna raise interest rates in March. And I think the stock market's starting to show that a little bit here. As far as the world is a screwed up place. It's always been screwed up and it'll continue to be screwed up. So, nothing surprises me.
Right. No, I mean, again, it's pretty predictable as to what's going on. So, I think we just have to, understand that, we've been through, things in the past and we will overcome, hopefully. But, there are some very things to be concerning about, and some of the things that are going on here. But, at the end of the day, we have to, continue to be strong but we do need to, I think, pay more attention to some of the things that happen and not just passively watch them happen. I think we need to be more active in many of the things we do, including voting and, not just, following the old line. I think you've got a lot of issues out there that could create some very bad situations in the future. Any thought?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the next election is going to be much different than the past elections. I think people have had it. I heard a story today. Someone I know went to Kohl's this weekend and here in Las Vegas, and they were sitting in the parking lot. A group of about 6 people went streaking out of the store with hands filled with clothes. Don't think they went to the checkout counter. So, it's kind of everywhere, even though, our police here are not like the police in California. This is kind of the wave. There's a lot of crime. People are going to get angry, and this is not going to help the people who are in power. That's here in this country. In the world, the Middle East is a screwed up place. If the U.S. policy is not going to be supportive of Israel, then that opens a window, and there's plenty of people in that region of the world that want to make problems there. So, look, the U.S. is a world leader, and as long as we set the tone, and if we're setting a tone that is a far departure from what it's been in the past, we're going to have a lot of problems in the world.
Right. And I think that's the, some of the issues. And, somebody had asked me today about the Chinese real estate market. I said, they don't really care. I mean, they're looking at things in 100-year plan, and the human, it's going to be until for the foreseeable future, the worst place of human treatment that there is. And because the rest of the world continue to ignore it because of the vast amount of people and the money that people make from what goes on. So they ignore human rights.
In this course, China will be the dominant country in the world if we remain on this course.
Agreed.
That's it. I mean, it's that simple. And this is not a trend that's going to be easy to reverse. And it could be, very bloody.
Right. And those are the scary things. I keep comparing.
Question is, will we wake up before it's too late or after it's too late? Because after it occurs, it's too late.
I believe that we have to wake up rather quickly. I mean, I don't mean tomorrow rather quickly, but let's say in the next year or two. We better do something. I do think that has to be done. Otherwise, it will be a much more serious problem, and you'll be too weak. You've already weakened the country significantly by the policies that we have, by giving back the power to three of our enemies, and so to speak, Russia, Saudi Arabia, and China. And I think that's a problem. Now, again, it can be corrected. Will the parties in power now correct it? Probably not. So obviously we'll have to see some change, because thank God for Joe Manchin is all I can say, because I think we'd be in even a much worse space right now. What are your thoughts of that?
We'll see what he comes through. I mean, until he votes, we don't know.
Right.
Until he votes, and he's in a very powerful position. He's probably the most powerful man in the country right now.
True.
In the next couple of weeks. We'll see what he wants. My guess is that they're going to give him whatever he wants, because they need his vote. Without his vote, this is another abject failure of this administration. I think they're going to have to give him whatever he wants. And then you're going to see a big divide between the progressives and the moderates. And that'll sow the seeds of their losses, in the next election. So, not a surprise, but well, let's see how far he's willing to push it. I'm not so sure. I'm hoping that he's willing to push it pretty far, but I don't see it. I thought it was very interesting that the study came out, and it showed that $1.75 trillion package actually cost $5.1 trillion.
Right.
Which is what he was saying. But let's see how far he wants to push it. I mean, let's see if he has. My question is, does he have the interest of West Virginia at heart, or does he have the interest of the whole country at heart? I think if he has the interest of the whole country at heart, we're in good shape. I think if he has only the interest of West Virginia at heart, he'll horse trade and be a regular politician. And this thing will go through at like 1.6 trillion. So let's see what he does. The jury's out. Is he going to do it? He's in a position that John McCain was in a couple of years ago when he came in and he gave the thumbs down on Obamacare. He's in that position. Let's see how far he pushes it.
I think that he will. You know what? I think he's prepared to take this all the way.
He's a politician.
Right.
Like I said, I don't rule anything out until he votes.
But I think he's one of the richest politicians already. And I think that, he would be giving up too much if he gave in here, because much of his money comes from the things that they're against. We'll see. I mean, I do think that I do believe that he is prepared to take it all the way. Now, again, we'll see. Obviously, he is a politician, but he's also, the good news is he's a much older politician, which means that he doesn't figure to have much time left there as well. And, we'll see. Again, we'll all see. Listen, my opinion is that he's prepared to take it farther than anybody thinks. And I don't think that.
Well, if you're right, he will destroy this administration.
Right.
They will have done nothing that they promised. So, that's what we say.
I mean, that's what I do think. And I also think that, again, I think he does have the best interest of West Virginia and the country. And I think she can see, because he's got kids and grandchildren too. And again, eventually, and I think the longer he pushes, the more you get some of the moderates to decide, maybe this is not the best course of action, because we want to get reelected next year.
I don't think they're getting reelected in any case.
Well, I think if some of them, again, not the more moderates might, and we'll see. I think,
Problem is that the other party is just as ridiculous.
Well, they're both ridiculous. I mean, that's how we got here. Okay. That's how we got to be $30 trillion in debt. Okay. Not for any other reason that we have a bunch of ignoramuses running the country with their best interests, with nobody else's. The same reason that those assholes, took a raise in the middle of COVID when nobody was working. Okay. Yet they don't want landlords to get paid. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here. But obviously we could spend hours and hours and not solve the problems, because of course There's only one way to solve it, and hopefully it will get taken care of. So, as I said before you got here, I said I think this is in my mind, this is the last week of the year. Although we have 2 more weeks after, but I think the last big trading week of the year is this week. Any thoughts to that?
Yeah. I mean, what do you have? Triple witching on Friday?
Triple witching on Friday, Fed on Wednesday, and then everybody, most trading desks are going to be running off a skeleton cruise.
Well, I'll agree with that with one exception. If the Fed really surprises the market, which I think is a potential, I mean, if the Fed is smart, they'll come out and they'll say, okay, we're stopping QE today. It's over. That would cause some fireworks for the rest of the year that should follow through. If they come out and they accelerate I think right now everyone expects them to accelerate the taper from 15 billion to 30 billion. I think that's kind of the consensus right now.
Okay.
I think that you're right. But if they pull a surprise, I think we could have a lot of action for them.
Oh no, I said, and just to clarify, because you weren't here yet, but I did say that with today's technology, nobody's more than a click away from being back involved in the market. Okay. But because obviously today you can trade from anywhere, you can be involved from anywhere, you can get all the information. So it's not, so it's basically an all the time, all word market. You see Fred's question there?
Let me see. Fred's question.
Term limits you're never going to get, because these jackasses on both sides will not ever do it, because they love stealing for a living. So you're not getting term limits, unfortunately, which would be the answer. Okay.
Oh, about Dr. Oz?
Yeah.
Another media guy running for president. Okay. Let's see. Where is he? He's running in Pennsylvania, right?
I don't know. I don't
think
pay
it's Pennsylvania.
I pay no attention, right?
I think it's Pennsylvania. He's got name recognition, so that's he's got a jump start as a politician. He's a media guy. He's more conservative.
So
the media people who've run in the past, it's been interesting. I would say he starts as a favorite. I think that the races to watch are the ones in Georgia. Those are the key ones.
All right.
I think that a lot of Democratic governors are going to go down. Watching those people, having those people run out of coals here in Nevada, and it's happening all over the country with a handful of stuff because they know they'll never get arrested. The status quo is going to go down because of that stuff. People care about safety. They want to earn, and they want to have a good life, and they want to be safe. So the minute you threaten their safety, you got a problem. And that's the real problem here. I mean, let's put it this way. I think whoever's a law and order candidate is going to win. I think law and order is key right now.
I agree. Look, again, this is, we've seen too much of this crap, in Chicago, obviously where I live, the murder capital of the world, the stealing capital of the world, with a mayor who's an imbecile. Okay. I mean, again, you can look at it any way you want. And it is, I think, starting to weigh, a little bit on markets. But again, we didn't do any real damage. I mean, the markets, they were down, 1%. I mean, again, I always just beg you to always convert it down to a small denominator. You can look at it. If it was a $10 stock, would I have been upset? No, you wouldn't be upset. So, other than we always want to make money every day, but the dollar was a little stronger today. And I think there's no notes today because I got no note takers. So,
the dollar's stronger because interest rates are going up, and the dollar's stronger because the euro is a terrible currency. So
right. Well, that's
a mirage. You look at the dollar. The dollar, you measure the value of the dollar against other world currencies. You measure against everything else, and it's in the toilet like everything else.
Right. So, but anyways, there's no notes today. I have no note taker. So, in the meantime, the dollar is trying to push to back to these highs up in here, and we'll get there. I don't know. I mean, again, the dollar is a fear asset. Okay, and again, with all the fiat currency manipulation, trying to take every currency down to zero. Right now, it's the euro currency, which I believe is going back under par, in my opinion. At some point, it's down to 113. So we'll see. In the meantime, resistance looks to be about 96.50 for now. Looks like 95.50 to 96.50 would be what I'd be watching. But again, remember that the bonds and the dollar are one of the two biggest fear assets. Okay. And you can see that that's where they're kind of going a little bit. So, and of course, Andy just mentioned the euro currency, and that is just, obviously it's a mirror image almost, but it's weak. Okay. And we haven't had, wait and see if we get some trouble here in the weather with the price of their natural gas or what's going to happen. I mean, those are not good things for the currency. So, I would say here you're looking at probably 112.5 to 113.5. As you look at it, I mean, it's a ugly picture. It's been ugly for months, and so actually, if you look back, it's probably been ugly for years after it peaked at about 165. Okay, look at the new mayor of New York City, who believes in the rule of law. Yes, and again, we should believe in the rule of law.
I don't mind. Listen, he's a progressive. That's fine. As long as you're safe in the streets, that's their job. That's the mayor's job. Listen, Rudy Giuliani, I don't know what happened to him. He comes across, he's like a bit of a horse's ass these days. But when he was the mayor of New York, he cleaned it up, because he believed that the police should have should be able to enforce the law. And hey, there's bad apples in the police department, no question. They need to police themselves. But at the end of the day, people have to be safe. And that's why this guy won. And he's replacing de Blasio, who's probably the worst mayor the city ever had. And I think you'll probably get, what Chicago needs is a Democrat who believes in the rule of law, a police captain. That's who should be the mayor. Rahm Emanuel was a swamp politician and a political operative. You have Lori Lightfoot. She's a disaster. She's actually, I saw she came out, she blamed the stores for not having enough security, and that's why people are stealing from them, which to me is ridiculous. But you're right. The mayor of New York City, he's an African-American gentleman. He's a police captain, believes in the rule of law. Okay, so he believes in some progressive things. That's fine. But if he's going to keep people safe, he will be a two-term mayor. And that's what that city needs right now.
Right. No, look, again.
That's what all cities need.
That you and I support all armed forces, military, police. Absolutely. And listen, in any walk of life, there's bad people. Okay. It doesn't matter. There's always going to be the few oddballs, but the majority do a hell of a job for no money. And
I got pulled over. I got pulled over a couple of months ago for going 40 and a 30. And the first thing I said to the cop, I knew I was getting a ticket. The first thing I said, thank you for your service. I know you put your life on the line every day. He said to me, you're making me feel bad about giving you a ticket. I said, no, give me a ticket. I broke the law. I'm going 10 miles over here. I get it. It was my fault. I'm stupid. That was a stupid thing. But you know what? I'm happy they're out there. I'm happy they're protecting us. And I support them with everything I have.
100%, and I couldn't agree with you more. And then, of course, as we look at Bitcoin, well, Bitcoin's been getting clobbered. Well, we said it wouldn't be no surprise if it got hammered. It made a new high, and
the events, 63% on the year. How many markets do you know that are up 63% on the year?
And what did we say? Actually, I would say, what did you say? You said it usually runs big up on events, and we had a couple of big events, and the last big event was last Monday, which was the announcement of the Ethereum micro, which is now on the CME or the Board of Trade, whichever one you want to call it, same thing. But these are, and it certainly it was due for some sort of a pullback. I mean, markets cannot go straight in one direction. Now we are still short. By the way, we're long dollars, short euros, and short Bitcoin right now. But I'm still a believer in the overall space, and I think that is telling us that there's becoming less belief in the fiat currency system. I mean, by the sheer nature that we're, I mean, the market cap took a big hit, but when we started talking about it here, it was just around $1 trillion. Now it's 2.3 trillion after getting almost a $3 trillion in market cap. And I think it continues to grow. I think once they weed out the criminal element of this crypto space, I mean, I don't know, they must add like 500 a day. Okay. But once they get it down, I think that you'll see that the cryptocurrency space will be real valid. And of course, the exchanges are accepting of it now because the SEC has now approved ETFs and options on many of them.
As long as they're futures based.
Right. Which is what it should be, right? I mean, you agree with that, don't you?
Well, I mean, but in Europe, you have some ETFs that are coming out that are physical based. Baskets, they're holding them as custody. I think eventually they'll do that here as long as the government doesn't, put its foot down. Futures based, the CFTC can regulate the futures market, so that's why they're comfortable with the futures based ETF pro. But you're not going to see a custody where until they solve the custody and the security issues, you're not going to see one of those in the United States. The Gensler's not going to allow that.
Right. So look, you could look at 46,000 to 44,000 next targets. Would it surprise if it went to 40? No. Would it surprise if it went back to 60? No. Again, remember, this is a product that trades freely 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay. So, and they're still working on, liquidity and charges and all kinds of things, but Binance just opened up in the US now. So
I see someone threw out a hard drive that had $500 million worth of Bitcoin on it and they can't access it now. Could you imagine?
And that something, and it's like the guy who forgot his password, he couldn't get the 22 million or whatever.
$500 million. Wow. I mean, that's fear.
So anyway, we'll see, right? I mean, again, it's where it is, and it'll trade like every other market. And cocoa, it's been wild. It's been trading up and down, and we reversed to the long side here. So it is popping, and it popped nicely. Again, you have to remember that these soft commodities are major. When they're moving, they're major movers.
Cocoa is the only one of the soft commodities that hasn't made a multi-year high over the last couple of months.
And they
tend to move in a pack. I mean, delayed. Some are laggards and some are leaders. But look at coffee. Coffee went to the highest price. Went over 250 last week. Went to the highest price since 2011. Sugar went to a multi-year high. Frozen concentrated orange juice over the past months went to a multi-year high. And cotton, we all know, exploded. So, cocoa, is it a surprise that it's rallying? It's not a surprise.
Right. I mean, listen, remember that these commodities can go dormant for a while. Okay. I mean, again, that happens all the time. This is not.
Yeah, I mean, different dynamics in the cocoa market because, the West Africa is the critical supply region, 60%. But, that makes it almost more volatile and more dangerous because, when it comes to logistics and when it comes to political upheaval, the Ivory Coast and Ghana are not the most stable places on earth.
Right. So again, you just have to remember and keep these things, always in mind as to, the market, the price action will tell you what's supposed to be going on. Okay. I'm checking something to confirm because I don't, yeah, you are correct, my friend. 100%. You are correct. And that's the private I'm talking to. So in the meantime, it still looks bad, but in crude oil, I don't know. I mean, it's stuck in consolidation. Okay. It's a market that is obviously extremely challenging to, any market that's consolidating sucks. Okay. They're much of a challenge. They drive you nuts. And I was surprised with the news today when they were talking about the bombings and things that I'm surprised that oil didn't react more favorably. What were your thoughts?
No, I from my perspective, listen, crude oil we've said it a million times. When it corrects, it takes an elevator shaft down. It does this all the time. I mean, it did it last April. It did it in 2018. It tends to do it around this time of the year. It's a seasonally weak time of the year. But what was impressive about oil is it stopped, I don't know, 60 or 70 cents above the low from August, which was kind of technically the right place for it to stop going down, and that it didn't say it wasn't going to be a deeper correction. And it bounced back over 70. It's kind of sitting in the middle of the range. It's doing everything right. Listen, it's U.S. energy. We've been saying this since November 2nd, 2020, the day of the election, when it became clear that Biden was going to win, that U.S. energy policy is going to change. That's going to support oil prices. No change in that. We're in a seasonally weak time of the year. Gasoline demand. Gasoline is the most ubiquitous energy commodity, and people drive less in the winter. So the bottom line is that, oil is, this is the right time of the year to experience weakness. It goes into 2022 over 70 or so. By the way, $75, close above $75, I think it's 75, somewhere around that, would be the 7th straight quarter of gains in crude oil. So, it's still, from a longer term perspective, looks very bullish, and everything politically supports it.
Right. Under the current policy, I think we both expect well north of $100.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now again,
and I expect us to be paying $5 at the pump. I mean, it's come down below $4, but in California they'll be paying $50 a gallon probably.
Maybe
what they don't understand also is that the higher oil goes, the higher it goes to consumers, because they don't put a per gallon tax on it. It's not like a 25-cent tax. It's a percentage tax.
Right.
So they make more revenues when the price goes up.
Well, maybe President Biden will send another strongly worded letter.
You're right. He's going to who? To OPEC? He's going to say, "Oh, Prince Solomon, can you please pump more oil?" That's the perfect reason for him not to.
Right.
And then he's going to give a dressing down to Putin, and Putin will say, "Yeah, okay, fine. I'll squeeze the wheat in the oil markets and make you look stupid."
Right.
It's the whole thing is ridiculous.
Without question, it is ridiculous. And of course, so you're looking at it, but right now, I would just say 70 to 73 is really what it looks like right now. It's kind of mid-range of the after the big down pounding, and we'll see. And
$11 per gallon in London.
Right. I mean, again, in that part of it, a lot of that has to do with costs there, but everybody forgets we have a tax, and as you just said, the tax is a percentage. The percentage kicks in higher. It makes it even more expensive to eat to fill up your tank, because if they're charging you, if it's a 5% tax, 5% is 5 cents on a dollar, it's 15 cents on 3, and so on. So we can continue the game, or just understand that it's not necessarily the cost, it's the tax and the government graft that goes underneath it that really cost.
Oil demand is so robust right now, and the latest EIA figures, what are we pumping? 11.1 million barrels per day in the U.S. We were pumping 13.1 in March 2020. We're not going to go back to that level, and we're probably going to go down from here as they close pipelines and they put these draconian regulations on the oil companies, and that's not going to stop. And I thought it was pretty funny that Biden, in his speech, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, he said, "And I want you to know that our energy policy has nothing to do with higher oil prices," which to me is amazing, because it has everything to do with it. Because if the former administration was in, I could guarantee you that oil would be $40 a barrel, where it should be.
Right. And we wouldn't have the inflation trouble we have today.
No, because oil is a big part of it.
Right.
Because even though CPI is ex food and energy, the components depend on energy prices. So it filters through even to the core.
Right. And they don't count it properly. Even when they do count it, it's counted at like 4% of your net budget, which is a joke altogether. But hey, What can we tell you? In the
Well, the
meantime,
less money. By the way, that's the other thing is that, they say that they're supporting the middle class and poorer people, and middle class and poorer people pay more for energy as a percentage of their income and savings than anyone else. So I'm sorry, it's just false.
so cotton is flattish and we're shorted here, but again, it's obviously getting ready to make another pretty substantial move, I would suspect, just by the sheer nature of the pattern. Now we're short, so
flip a coin. I say
Right.
flip a coin in the cotton market.
Right. Well, based on our position, I'm going to assume it's going to be down, but that doesn't
Right.
mean that I'm right. But again,
Right. I mean, I understand why the systems are short, but cotton right now is a flip a coin market. And by the way, seasonally it should be down. Seasonally it should be down because the up move should come February, March, April. That's when it typically moves to the upside and the uncertainty of the crop. But hey, we're still sitting at a price that's the highest price since 2011.
and remember, in April of 20, we were at 48 cents. So not a sell-off is never a surprise, especially when you've had these massive gains. Gold, gold looks real awful now. It refuses to hold any rally. This is the best it's looked in a while now, from a charting standpoint, but it still seems to have a big headwind. And certainly, the interest rate hike or the talk of it is not bullish for gold markets yet.
Well, let's discuss that for a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
So interest rates, yes, nominal interest rates higher is one thing, but real interest rates are the inflation rate minus the interest rate. So if we take a look at what CPI is looking at, and even core CPI, if we want to be like the Fed, and we take that away from what short-term interest rates are, well, we have negative interest rates because the money that we have in the bank is disintegrating by the day. So yes, a stronger dollar is bearish for gold, but the dollar's a mirage. I think we established that.
No, I agree 100%.
Bonds have come down. I mean, they were 173 at the end of the long bond was 173 at the end of 2020. And what are we today? Well, 162 and a half roughly. Yeah. So that interest rates are higher, but real interest rates, gold is concerned with real interest rates. So gold is holding here. I'm not making a bullish case. I'm not making a bearish case. Look, from my work and from what I believe, gold has room to fall to 1450 before it gets into trouble with this 2-decade long bull market that it's been in. Short term, I wouldn't be surprised to see it come down. And that's why I, like you, buy physical gold. But gold, it's going to have knee-jerk reactions of the Fed and all this kind of stuff. But when it has those reactions, sit back and think about what are real rates, because it's real rates that determine what gold does.
Right. And again, I agree with all that. And I think that, again, although they technically it's supposed to be bad, typically you end up, if you get a sell-off, it usually ends up in becoming a rally later. And again, there's a lot of crazy things going on, and including the crappy currencies. So in the meantime, we're still short, and right now I would say probably still 1760 to 1800, but certainly 1450. Obviously there's a number of levels to break before it gets there, and there is reason to believe you might see a pop here, but it's got a lot of work to do to reverse out. The feeder cattle, which we are long feeders and short fats. Feeders continue to kind of consolidate here. I thought the action was pretty good today with the
it's
lower opening, and then they close higher. And I think what you want to look at too is that a good market will typically open lower and close higher.
Yeah, and if you look at all of these things, all of these foodstuffs, whether it's beef or pork or grains or wheat, all this stuff, the trends are pretty clear. They're higher, and that's inflation.
Right. No, wait. I got more. Hogs, which we reversed, obviously, on this big spike up. And of course, they held ground, but no surprise. There were some small.
When's the last time you saw 80-cent hogs in December?
Never. I think this, honestly, in truth, I think this is the first time I've ever seen it.
Right.
Maybe, maybe during PED. I don't remember how the time it all worked out, but I think this is the first time I've ever
Yeah,
seen it.
yeah, no. These prices are expensive. I mean, there's no question, and it's also the input costs. Listen, the people who are raising, the ranchers who are raising cattle, and the producers who are raising hogs, it costs them a lot of money now. The feed prices are high, the energy prices are high, the transportation prices are high.
Right.
It's all very expensive.
And how about interest
processing-
rates?
Interest rates, right? And the processing costs are
Yep.
higher because they have to pay the employees at the processing plants more. It all feeds into this, and this is all part of the inflationary scenario.
No, it's brutal, and unfortunately, it looks to get worse before it gets better. But again,
Just
you know,
remember this, Bubba. From 2008, all the stuff that they did to the economy, the stimulus, the liquidity, it took until 2011, 2012 till prices peaked. We're still in early days. This started in 2020, and we're at the end of 2021. This and the levels this time were multiples of what they were in 2008. So I expect this kind of stuff to last until 2024, 2025.
we better hope for farmers' sake that these pieces like price.
They got to keep up, because if they don't keep up, then you're going to have even worse rallies because you're going to have supply problems.
Well, we already have the supply chain problem, and also a shortage of fertilizer for other things.
Well, you tell me what's a hog producer going to do when his costs are 90 cents and the market's trading at 80 cents? He's not going to produce, right?
He's going to buy the board. He's going to
and then the price is going to go to $1.90. That's what's going to happen. We always say it, the cure for low prices is low prices, and low prices are not a function of the absolute price. They're a function of what it costs to produce this stuff.
Right. Okay. And of course, copper remains and getting, again, it's still setting up for a much bigger move. Obviously we're still short, but it is setting up for a very big move.
I've traded copper for 40 years, and I want to tell you that always around Christmas time, in more times than not, I have seen copper make a big move. Plus, end of year marking, there are a lot of longs out there in copper, and the copper market gets thin. So don't be surprised if we don't see a hell of a breakout in copper.
Again, it's going to do something, because the tighter it winds, the bigger the move is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still short right now. I'm going to say what I've basically said the last few weeks: 425 to 440. Coffee, look, coffee's up, I think, 120% in the last year. Is that about right?
It's done better than Bitcoin.
Better than everything.
Not better than Ethereum, though.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, here you get a pullback right to support. And so where is it right now? It's in consolidation.
Yes.
It's consolidation.
But you always say it doesn't go in these straight lines. It has to come back. It has to test. It has to make the line look better.
Right.
The move to 250 over 250 was kind of a blow off, and now it's logical. But remember, in March 2020, where was it? Coffee was like 90 cents. I mean, look at these prices.
Here, listen, I bought coffee at 44 cents once.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
I know, but I mean, it was $3 before I bought it at 44 cents.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So again, look, Andy and I both agree. We think this is going higher. This is part of the whole cycle. And unfortunately, you're going to be paying more.
You got to look at this as like a relay race, because one of them is handing the baton to the other, and they're running. I mean, we'll get to it, but if you take a look at the latest baton holders, it's been coffee, it's been wheat, and it's been the L commodity.
Lumber.
Right.
Lumber.
There it is.
Here it is.
It was a convenient excuse.
Yep.
It's transitory. Lumber fell from 1711 down to 488. And I'm saying to myself, you know what? Yeah. Why don't you mention how illiquid that market is and how crazy that market is? And here we are back at 1100 plus. This is a wild market. You should never trade it, but you got to watch it. And lumber is telling me, watch out in copper, watch out in oil, watch out in these other things. Because if you look at this tends to move before the others. And
Right.
this could be sending us a very serious signal. You don't hear him talking about lumber on CNBC. You don't listen to it anyway, but you don't hear him talking about that. Lumber so much these days, and you don't hear the Fed talking about lumber, or in the congressional testimony, you don't hear them bringing up lumber, because all of a sudden, lumber's almost triple the price it was in August. Bingo, right?
Right. Actually, it's trouble. You're right. And you said when it was down around 450, whatever it was, you said this looks like a pretty good spot. I go,
Right.
we
And
can't
it
trade
was
it.
only because, listen, only because it kind of did what we did. It went into a consolidation for a couple of weeks and it sat there. And, the infrastructure package was coming up. Infrastructure requires a lot of wood, and that passed. And by the way, interest rates are going up. They're not going to go up overnight. So a lot of people are going to scramble to buy new homes before they go up. Housing prices are going to go up in the spring, and that means that there's going to be demand for new homes and demand for lumber. And look at this thing. I mean, it's a freak show. Before 2017, lumber never traded above 494. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So it came down to a level that was close to that previous all-time high, which was a long-term chart point. It went a little bit below, but it's crazy in a liquid. And then here we are back. We're well on our way to where we were at the highs. It's amazing.
And the most important thing to remember is that this ridiculous infrastructure package that was passed, not one project is shovel ready. Not one project is going to get done during this administration. Not because of this administration. None of them are ready. None of them will be approved. So
yeah, they'll buy a lot of lumber. It'll rot in warehouses.
right.
Right.
And of course, cattle, again, we're short this cattle, but again, it's really consolidating. I mean, I don't particularly care for that short position, but that's what it is. So that's where we are. And natural gas, obviously, we see natural gas.
This is the reason we follow trends, okay, folks?
We
we both are pretty. We agree on energy policy and how it's going to affect things. And even when natural gas was at $3 last year, I thought that the market would make higher lows, but this market is a freak show, a wild freak show. And you have to follow trends in this kind of market, because look at the move that you're able to pick up in this market. I mean, where did we get short this, Bubba?
It's a long time ago, about before we had to roll it, about 550.
Right, exactly. And look at how much you pay. And 550 getting short, all like, oh, the thing traded at 640. But you know what? There's so much juice on the table in this thing when it starts to move. It's a beautiful thing. And that's why a lot of the reason it came down to is, listen, after seeing 640 going into winter, a lot of people, it's $5. Let me pick some up. They get flushed out at 450. The people who buy it at 450 because they think it's cheaper, they get flushed out at 390. This is just what happens in this market. And
Right.
Natural gas has taken more prisoners than any market I know.
They're the ones that broke optionsellers.com.
Right. Follow Amaranth, all these billions and billions of dollars. Follow trends in this market. Don't be stubborn in this market. Don't think you know better than the natural gas market, because the natural gas market takes no prisoners.
100%. And the OJ, again, OJ is working its way lower, and we're short. Look, it popped up and went against us for a while. Now it's coming down. Now you could look at this. It's a thin market to begin with, right? So that's always.
This is lumber. It's like lumber in a lot of ways. It's so thin.
Right. So you just have to, as they say, grin and bear it. I mean, it has been a very good product over the years, but you do have to go. You have to suck down some garbage.
Right. Listen, any market that has the potential to double or triple in value has the potential to hand out a lot of pain on the other side. So risk is always a function of potential reward. And that's what it is with lumber. So, you have to have kind of broad horizons there. Tight stops and things like lumber and orange juice don't work. Stop following trends work. So you want to catch the big trend. And that's why we're always long or short these commodities. But you want to catch the big trend. But your algorithms, your risk, it's a function of the potential rewards. So when it gets choppy, it gets choppy.
And platinum continues to be, this has been brutal after it got back to 1100 after making the lows. Now, looking at this, we don't trade it anymore because it's not liquid enough for us. But looking at this, I could see that you might. Now again, I put it, around there very careful. This could be showing a potential bottoming pattern.
Yeah, but full disclosure, I bought it this morning.
I don't listen. I bought some. I bought some physical. I mean, listen, it's on sale. From as far as I'm concerned, it's on sale. When I die, my kids will sell every bit of it. But in the meantime,
and at $8.50, I'll buy more.
I got it right. I mean, look, again, this is when you're holding a physical position versus a paper position. The physical, you have to have the capital to be able to hold it, and not because you don't want to have to sell it. And if you had to sell it, guess what? You'll get barbecued when you have to. So in the meantime, we'll see. It's in a downtrend, so we'll see where it goes. And sugar, again, sugar, we're long, and again, it's really choppy. Again, everything's kind of choppy, and unfortunately, nothing's really going too far in either direction. Okay, remember, the bigger the numbers, the bigger the moves. It's really a percentage basis again. And cotton, coffee. I mean, coffee, sugar. I'm thinking of having breakfast.
By the way, sugar has a pretty good correlation with oil. So it kind of, if you look at that chart, it kind of looks a little like the oil chart, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And again, it's a commodity that came from what was about $11, I think, where it started. So you're seeing some gigantic moves.
905,
and silver looks awful as well. Again,
silver is all about crowd sentiment. There's no fundamentals in the silver market. Last year it had an almost $18 range. This year the range is $8, between $8 and $9. It's what we like to call an inside year in the silver market.
I wish it was 5. We could buy a couple billion ounces.
Yeah, that's over.
Anyways, and the bond market, look, it's really, again, something that's in a consolidation pattern. We're still long bonds and notes. And, look, the Fed raises rates. These are going to come down. But did the move, down already price in what the Fed's going to do, or is there going to be more? And that's why you should see on Wednesday afternoon at 2:00, some pretty good movement in gold.
I say this: if the Fed is smart,
well, that's the biggest.
I'm just saying, if the Fed is smart, they will say QE is over today. If they're smart, and we might take a little short-term pain, but the gain will be worth it.
Yep.
I don't think they're smart.
They're not smart.
That's what
You're 100% right.
That's really what needs to be done here.
Correct. Again, they could do a lot of things, but they don't ever do anything that really directly benefits the middle class.
By the way, they'll also know that if they did that, they would have Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, AOC up there,
right,
so quick, because they would accuse them of hurting the people, and that's why they
people that they're destroying, they would accuse the Fed of hurting them.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly true.
Right. No, I know it is true. I mean, again, if you look at what has happened to small business since these bozos have taken control, okay, they're all out of business. That's what's happened to small business. So, look, I don't want to get into that whole story, but that's a fact. In the meantime, 161 to 163, and corn. Look, it was down today, but look at the pattern. Markets got to slow down occasionally. Okay. And
to call this anything but a bull market is wrong. Listen, we had spikes earlier in the year, and we had craziness, at the beginning of the crop year, the growing season, all that kind of stuff. But this is doing very well at this time of the year.
And it better keep doing well. But yeah, anyways, 580 is a key level to watch if it comes a little bit lower. But
it's like, by the way, it's like the others that we talked about. If it doesn't do well, then the input costs are going so high that it'll roof because you'll have supply shortages.
Right.
It's got to do well.
And soybeans, which again are really just chirping around, and we're still short soybeans. Okay. Again, they're not going anywhere. They're kind of stuck, and very similar patterns of many things we've looked at. I mean, to me, 1250 was always the key. We're now again below there, and I think the next big spot is probably $12. Okay, if they get there. Okay, so
Well, this is the time of the year for them to go down if they're going to go down because
you
once
know,
the
until
uncertainty of the next crop, we'll be back in the teens.
you remember the old days, Novi beans never traded $8 for 100 years until they did. Anyways, and wheat, which had a very nice move today, a very nice recovery, but it's still in a downtrend and we're still short. But I think in wheat the key is going to be $8. Okay.
The key is going to be Vladimir P.
Oh yeah, that goes without saying. That's we assume the political side, but I think from a trading side, the key is going to be $8. Okay, if it doesn't get back there, it's not going up. That's what I would say. And certainly, if you remember, the first time we had the better bull market, it was started by wheat, and this might be the second one because look at the move. It came right from where we identified it. Okay, and we called this pattern down here. So in the meantime, look, markets are markets, and you can't muscle them. You can't outsmart them. You got to follow the price action, and you have to remember that the size that you trade has to be commensurate with what you can afford when they're going against you. It's easy to make money. It's easy to when we're making money, everything's easy. Nobody's got any sweat. But the minute you start losing money, you got sweat. And that's why you have to you have to assume the worst to begin with so that you're protected and you have the capital to be in the game. That's what it always comes down to. Any comment there before I shut this recording off, sir?
No, that's definitely says it all.
Okay. All right, I'm going to stop this recording. We're going to come back right in 1 second. Let me just start the new recording and stop. Yep. Okay. My girlfriend is speaking to me more than my wife does. Okay, here we go. And of course, what's up? If you're just tuning in, this is the Monday call. And we've just finished a pretty spirited pregame and a lot going on. And, markets were much higher overnight, and they just decided that they didn't want to go up anymore, and they fell apart this morning. They made one rally attempt, and then they failed again. Right? It's amazing the timing when they failed. The minute the Rams announced that they had COVID problems, the market fell. It was, and I kept waiting for the line to go higher in the Rams game, and it didn't. But in the meantime, we'll see. But one thing you want to look at is, have you noticed the shrinking food sizes? Okay, you may not be paying more for what appears to be something, but you're getting the smaller portions. Even a Snickers bar has gotten smaller.
Maybe that's good for the obesity problem in the country.
I mean, when you look at the packaging and you go into the store, okay, you see smaller packages. Okay, but if you're feeding a family that eats, it doesn't matter. You got to buy more packages. The inflation is real. The crock that they feed you is all garbage, and that's what you have to remember. This is what we're looking at, and it's everything. It's in everything. They think that they're fooling you, and I've got more on that, but I'll get there in a second. But I always have to remember to thank all of our public servants because, look, again, as I say every week, if it wasn't for you, I couldn't do what I do, and you guys put your lives on the line for me and for everybody here, and I always want to thank you and share how grateful I am that you were here for us. I know I speak for Andy as well, but you already told this ticket story. Okay. But we always thank you. And not only just the veterans, but, obviously active duty and of course, police. Look, again, there may be some bad ones or maybe something goes on, but at the end of the day, they're there and they're there to take care of us. And I always love to see them. I wish I would have had them when I got hit and run the other night when I was in Vegas. But in the meantime, Muhammad Al-Arian, you know who he is, right? Muhammad?
Yeah.
Bill Gross's ex-partner.
Yeah, PIMCO. Yeah.
Worst inflation call ever from the Fed. Okay, well, gee, we've been saying that for longer than they ever said it. I mean, I've been talking about that since they started with their garbage. I mean,
what did we say? We said dinosaurs were transitory, right?
I mean,
they lasted for a couple of thousand years and wreaked havoc.
Right? I mean, this is silly. The way they track it is silly. Okay, and I'll get there. That's my bitch. So we'll get there in a minute. But the Dems are panicking over the Build Back Better America plan. I mean, really, it's a disastrous plan. Even Janet Yellen has changed her view on this plan. The most dovish person on the face of the earth has changed her views on how this plan. It is a plan for destruction. It is a plan to create universal basic income. One of the reasons we have so many problems in doing things the right way is because the progressives want UBI, universal basic income. It's horrible. Okay.
I have a way that they could really make the Build Back Better plan better, and it wouldn't cost a dime
Go ahead.
if they all resign.
Oh, well, there you go.
That's it.
Hey,
That would be the start.
that would
Let
be
them all
another-
resign. Now we'll be better off.
The EU is well ahead of the US in cryptocurrency support and regulation. Well, because they recognize, listen, they're already great manipulators anyways, but they do recognize A, the value, and B, that it's going to happen. So why not take care of it and get some benefit out of it? Okay.
And they also, remember, they also went through a whole currency change in the 90s. And it's much easier for them to do it as a central bank because they're new, they're more on the cutting edge. It makes sense they're ahead. Makes sense China's ahead. And Japan is probably well down the road as well.
And of course, what nobody talks about is foreclosures continue to jump. Okay. So yeah, we're buying a
People
lot
aren't paying rent.
we're buying a lot of housing and foreclosures keep going higher. Okay. Think about that. Okay. It's a scary scene. And although Connie's not feeling well, she did send over her words of wisdom, and it's be alert, expect the unexpected. We talk about it all the time. It's about being prepared for what can happen. Okay. Because there's nothing is for there's only, as they say, there's only two things for sure: death and taxes. Okay. Everything else, you've got to always be prepared for it. Always great work, Connie. I appreciate it. And her State of the Union, her new category, and the Fed loses control as consumers now expect 10% inflation for key staples. And again,
You think it's going to dip that low?
no, I don't.
I think it's much higher than that now.
I do. I agree, which takes me, Connie, thanks, honey. I'm even not feeling why you still deliver. Okay. Here's my bitch. The CPI numbers as reported. They're the biggest bunch of bullshit that there is. Okay. I can't help myself. It is so misreported. Okay. But it's really misreported for a reason. So they don't show how ignorant and dumb that they are, and to try to continue to pull the wool over the eyes of Americans. But we all know what we're paying everywhere you go. I mean, hell, I went to McDonald's the other day. I almost had a heart attack. $7 for a biscuit and a hash brown. It's been a long time since I've been through a drive-through there, but I'm telling you that these CPI numbers are so off. I would say that real inflation is about 20%. That's my guess. What is your guess? You're closer to that stuff than I am.
I would say it's about 15%.
Okay.
But if you're going to fold real estate into it, I'd say it's 20%.
But let's take out food and energy, because for the average American, that's the two of their biggest costs, especially if you have a
I still
family.
think it's 15%
I mean,
minimum. By
No, I
the way,
know.
didn't we were speaking to some people in the farming business, and we asked, how much is farm equipment up? What do we get? 20 to 30%? That's a good, estimate of what it is. At the end of the day, it's a
end of the
lot
day, it's a
higher
problem.
than the 6.8% CPI said, or the 4.9% core. It's a lot higher. It's multiples of that, and it's going to go higher. And even if the Fed starts raising interest rates, what are they going to do? What are they going to raise it? Their lift off? They're going to go to 50 basis points on the Fed funds rate? Come on.
Right. And
they just do anything.
that's a problem, because your producers who produce your food, they don't get the great interest rates that you all hear about every day. They pay double what their great interest rates are. And when rates go up, they got to pay more. And then they become more exposed to getting forced liquidations when markets get crazy. So
They can't fix their interest rates for very long. They're variable. So the banks will jack the rates on those business loans quickly.
Right. It's a
Those
problem.
are ARMs,
I feel sorry for them. I mean, they do okay, but the people that built this country are getting the most amount of punishment, and it's kind of sad. Okay. In the meantime, the Dow today, Yankee Michael, which we use the Dow future. Okay, so it went down. It was down to 300, less than 1%. Okay, where are we? We're right at probably key support. I would say
It is
this
an
week,
ugly chart pattern, though.
sorry.
It's an ugly chart pattern. Tim.
Yeah, you had the big dip down. We've spiked right back up. Now we're going sideways, which you would expect that from some type of blowout pattern, and we'll see. I would suggest that tomorrow would be interesting, and I would expect to see, hopefully a lower open so that I could buy them for a trade, anyways. But you remember, you have a big week with the
Yeah,
Fed.
I would expect something different. I would expect an inside day tomorrow, and then I would expect a very big move on Wednesday.
Right, and remember, when the Fed comes out with an announcement that has any value whatsoever, you can expect three moves: up, down, and then the right move, whatever it's supposed to
Right.
be. In the meantime, to me, this is 35.3 to 36,000. We'll see. We are long. Just full disclosure. Okay, the S&P echoes here again. This is very similar, but better, and it's much closer to the highs. Now, the key is going to be the real key here is: do they make new highs, or does this start to make a lower highs? Well, we're still long for now. Okay, so I can't say. I mean, certainly, I think that we have lots of issues, but that doesn't mean we can't rally before the issues come to play. This is one
Right,
thing
yeah,
you have
you have so many dynamics here, Bubba. I mean, you also have the Fed, but then you have end of year window dressing. You have tax planning because taxes are going up. You have a lot. This is a year where you have a lot more going on than usual.
right, which could create more selling because you want to clear some of the books out. Yeah, there's so many different dynamics taking place at one time. It's probably the most I've seen in my lifetime.
Yeah, me too. This is the triple witch of the triple witch. The
Right.
next couple of weeks.
So in the meantime, here we're like at 46.40 to 47.20. The Nasdaq, November, Quebec. Again, they all look the same. The only thing that looks really weak is the Russell. But again, here you're 16,000 to 16.4, and we're long them all. So I don't have to keep reminding myself that we're long them all. And the Russell looks the worst. Okay, and again, it would be no surprise. Now I don't have any information yet, but it would be no surprise to me if the Russell turned over. Okay, but in the meantime, we'll see. I can only follow what I follow, which is the algorithms which I trade, and we go through these rough periods, and that's what it is. That's why it's so important to be prepared for everything. And thanks to Connie, she reminded us, but also again, that's why capital management and being sized appropriately is always the right way to be. And of course, the VIX, popped. Again, we're churning around, as I said 2 weeks ago, actually. But look, you got this big spike. The big spikes never hold. The only thing you can ever get is if you can get a constant rise in volatility, which we have not seen forever. And it looks to me that that we're probably somewhere 15 to 20, and then we see a spike up a little higher. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you had to move to 35, which was a hell of a move, and then it came down. I would expect, going into the end of the year, I don't think we're going back to the lows near, 15. I think it'd be choppy here.
I agree. I mean, again, it's a very interesting dynamic of all the things that can take place and all the people that are planning to figure out how they're going to, if they're going to sell, if they're going to buy, there's just so many dynamics happening, and we'll see.
I think, it's amazing because when I put it all together in my head, the most logical thing is that the bullish and the bearish things that are pulling them both directions, maybe it'll go nowhere, which is probably the most frustrating.
Right. I agree. I could see that. In the meantime, our portfolio, Apple, had a hell of a move. I know the captain wants more pretzels, but I'm not giving because I didn't bet him this time. But they continue to, kind of charge higher. And, listen, we're still long Apple. So, certainly not a bad thing. But, a little bit of a sell.
What they do, a $280 billion deal with the Chinese?
Yeah. I mean, you're up to 180. Okay. It broke right out of consolidation and went straight up. Now, don't be surprised that if Apple comes back to 170 or 175, I mean, that would be in line, with the pattern. I mean, depending on how this is, when you look at a chart, one thing for sure, this has escaped way too far off the mean. Okay. Which means it should retrace somewhat. Now, it can either consolidate, at 175 to 180 while the rest of the market catches up, or it can have a sell off and come back down and meet that and still be an uptrend. That's what you have to understand about this. But when they escape either too high or too low, no matter what, they're going to usually have some retracement back towards, the center base, which is, many of you use the moving averages or whatever.
So let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Did Apple bet 10% of their market cap? Did they hedge China's, the future with China with 10% of their market cap? Is that what they did?
That's what I would think they're doing.
Okay.
I mean, that's a hell of a
Hell
market.
of a big bet.
But again, they make so much money that it's
a hell of a big bet with a leadership that tends to renege.
Right. Well, we know that, they know that, but obviously, one thing about their product is it's fairly much in demand, right? It's
of course, pretty
good sized company. In the meantime, look, we're long. I would not be surprised to see 170, but for today, 172.50, to 182.50. Okay. AG, which is a representative of silver, and look at this. Now, we haven't traded this yet. We continue to watch it, and it's just getting pounded. And well, of course, why not? Silver's getting pounded too. So now, if you're someone who wants to gamble, you would wait for this to kind of flatten out, and maybe this will be a bottom. Now, this is not a double bottom. Okay, for many, you might say, well, it's a double bottom. It's not. Look, double bottoms work best in an uptrending market, and double tops work best in a downtrending market. It's that simple. Okay. This is not a double bottom. This might be a resting spot before it goes much lower. The only way that this will hold as a bottom is if you start to see some consolidation. If it jumps right off there, it's probably coming right back down again.
Yeah, you're right. And if, the Fed does something that surprises the market, the pressures probably get hit. And, gold might drop, $20, $30, but silver always has the potential to do stupid stuff.
Right. Exactly. In the meantime, I'd watch the 1050 level. To me, this is like 1050 to 1150. Now, the nice thing about this, the reason I put this one in the first place, is when it goes up, it's got some hell of a potential. So, we'll keep watching it. We're not in a hurry. AMD, Alpha Michael Delta. Now, we did very well on the upside. We got short. Now, here we are coming down, and we're now at a very key support level. Now, here, see, this is where you would look at support. Now, we're short, so the algorithms think that it's going lower. But as I look at this with just my charting eye, I would say, well, I wouldn't be surprised if it popped a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if it broke through, because here we are. This is a must level, whichever side you're on. If you're long, it's got to bounce. And if you're short, you want it to break through the bottom. Okay, because wherever it goes from here, it's going to move probably fairly substantially. Now, if I'm looking at this, I would say 130 to 145, and you may say, well, that's a lot of room. Well, you know what? When you have expectation of movement, okay, of a stock over the next couple of weeks, of $10, $11, $13, that's right in line. Okay. Again, remember, the option markets dictate what expectations are through implied volatility. This is implying a move that is that big. So don't be surprised. That's why I can give these bigger ranges, because the higher the volatility, the more these markets are going to move. Bravo Alpha. Well, Charlie Munger made it go up, and of course we said it's probably going right back down again, and here it is. It made a new low at about 110, and now we're churning right back at 120. I would be very surprised that if it gets through 130, we're still short. I would make this one right here. I think 120 is the key to watch, but I would not at all be surprised to see it go through 110, nor would I be surprised to see it go back to 100. Okay, nothing ever surprises me, really, but this would not. This action is not very bullish, especially when Charlie Munger made the big announcement. I can't wait to see their report when they sold it. Bito, well, we haven't traded this yet. This is the Bitcoin ETF that is directly correlated to futures, and it just keeps going down since it came out, basically. But what do you think of this, Andy?
It tracks Bitcoin well, a percentage basis, so that's good. That's a good tool. It came out and like a lot of other events, like the Coinbase, when it came out, it was the first ETF and it lifted the price. I think it came out around the time Bitcoin and Ethereum went to highs, November 10th, and they made key reversals and they've been coming down since, and this has been coming down with it. I think it's a good product. It tracks well, but it's
We only
basically
cover,
a bear market.
right. And we only cover these because there are many out there that would like to trade Bitcoin, but are afraid of the wallets and the other stuff. So we track a number of things for different reasons. So right now, look, there's no reason to buy this now under any circumstances. Okay. Let it find a base and it'll track Bitcoin, and you can use the bigger chart if you want. But in the meantime, I see no reason to step in here. Same thing with BitQ. Now BitQ has been trading a little bit more, been around longer. And of course it peaked and came back down to support. It made a new high. And now this is like Bitcoin at a very important level. Okay. Now, again, this is more, I own this. Okay. But it's more of a play on crypto versus anything else. I don't do anything else with it. I just own the stock. Okay. I don't trade options on it. They're not liquid enough for me. I just own the stock and I'm not interested in doing any of it right now. I hope that the options becomes much more liquid because I'd much rather do it that way. But to me, again, I'm not selling it either way. In fact, I did try to buy more today, full disclosure, but I can't buy it in the one account I wanted to buy it. So I didn't buy anymore. But in the meantime, again, this is a key level to watch, just like in Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin keeps going down, this is going with it. CGC. Now, we only trade this. We have it in one portfolio, which it is short. Okay. But really, the reason that we have a couple of pot stocks is we're trying to see if we can get some sort of announcement. They look pretty good back when I first called it and said they look pretty good. But suddenly the sellers are back, and it looks like Andy's going to be more right at what he said months ago, which is they're going to bust these little companies so that Altria and guys like that can take advantage of it.
Yeah, it feels that way. I mean,
well, it certainly looks that way.
Well, I mean, listen, they can't get even Build Back Better through Congress. I don't think they're going to get marijuana legislation. I don't think they're going to get anything through. So
it's amazing.
That's why these things are failing.
I mean, that was a Trump problem too. I mean, there's something here. It's like too simple, right? I mean, why should we pay down our debt with the amount of tax and money that's created?
Well, I think someone mentioned, they're still a very conservative, the religious right.
Yeah, they did. But again, when it comes to money, I find something funny in business. When it comes to money, even the most religious and most conservative find ways to make exceptions.
Yeah, that's true. But, look, it's not the primary agenda. The bottom line is, when it comes to legalization, take the bit, you walk around, you smell it everywhere. It's everywhere.
Right.
The federal legislation is almost ceremonial at this point, but it has to do with the businesses of these things.
Listen, I went to a vape store to buy some tobacco, some vaping juice, and they all got us marijuana.
Right, right. So the point is that, these companies, they burst on the scene, they did very well, and now, they just can't operate. They can't get financing. They can't get banking. They can't take credit cards. It's a perfect way to put them out of business. So the big boys can take it over.
Right.
That's what it smells like.
It's burning. In the meantime, look,
cash burn.
We're short this. I would not sell it now if I hadn't been short already. Okay. If I were looking for if I was in a gamble, this is one of the pot stocks I gamble on, but to me, they look like they want to go to the toilet. Okay. Chewy, Charlie Hotel Whiskey Yankee, got hammered. We are shorted. And of course, Andy and I are both customers here. Now, the selling on earnings on Friday really took it down to almost $50. And now it's at 55. This is going to be resistance right here. The question is, can it turn from here? And, they've got costs too. So this is also a problem, right, Andy? I mean, dog food costs money. Cat food costs money. It's got input just like anything else.
What about that? The shipping. They're big. They're a shipping business. Their shipping costs a fortune.
Well,
it's eating away at their
margins. We don't have anymore is becoming even more evident. But look, we're short this. for now, 50 to 55. I think 55 is a key to watch. I know it's 55.26, but right in that neighborhood. If you can get through and reverse trend, but the next stop would maybe be 60. But it's got a lot of work to do to reverse out. Coin, Charlie Oscar, India, November. Look, Andy and I both own this. It's been brutal.
It's at the reference price,
But
250.
yeah,
That's the
Right.
reference price, right? That
Yeah.
was the pre-listing reference price. It went up to 430, went down to 208. We're back at 250. It's the pivot.
again, Coin is the bookmaker. They make money on either side. But remember, when everything slows down, so does the amount of trading that goes on.
Yeah,
And
they're
these
going to do better in a bull market than a bear market.
100%. So we don't have this in any portfolio. For today, I would look at this probably 245 to 290. Okay. Curl F, this is one that is strictly for potential. If you think pot is going up, this is a retailer. Okay. You see them, I guarantee you've seen their stores because underneath the name of the store, whatever, it says purely. We'll see again. If you think there's going to be a deal before they break these guys, then this is where you gamble. If not, stay away. Okay. These are not the king of liquidity, nor are they the king of something you want to trade. Certainly like this pattern, if we did trade it, would be shorted. Okay. DraftKings tried to pop and it's now once again nursing its way down.
Horrible. Looks horrible.
And I understand why. Okay, this doesn't make me feel better, but their customer acquisition costs are far too big for the amount of money that they can generate, because they don't, their profit margins are not like a retail store. Their profit margins are supposed to be 5% of the money handled. Now they'll get some relief potentially when New York becomes live, and if California at some point when they become live. But right now they pay way too much for customers, and I still own it. I'm still hedging it. I still think it's going higher, but I am protected. So it's not like our portfolios are shorted. Okay, just again from a trading standpoint, and this is not a double bottom. This is right now, I would say 27 to 34. Okay, fast Foxtrot Alpha Sierra, which we are long, and it's kind of just stuck in this range. We got a little whipsaw in it. We did real well in it, and I got a little whipsaw. Yeah, I would just say here, probably 120 to 130 would be what I'd be watching. Facebook, hey, we finally reversed Facebook, got short and it popped right up in our nose, but it's really churning on the bottom end of the overall range. But basically, if you look at it, it's really just stuck 300 to 380. Okay, and it can move very quickly in either direction. Okay, and you're seeing this in a lot of spots. But one of the key things I would be looking at is the fact that it made a lower low here. Okay, and if it makes a lower high here, it could get ugly. Now again, we're already short, so it's not like I'm planning on selling it because that's I only trade the patterns that I'm using through the algorithm. So we'll see. First Solar, Foxtrot, Sierra Lima, Romeo, which we are short. Okay, and it continues to work its way lower. Now this is almost, if you put this in an example in a book, that's almost a perfect downtrend. Okay, reaches up, fails, comes down, finds support, bounces back, and fails. And at some point, it will stop and reverse out. But right now, we're still short, and I would say right now probably 90 to 100. Okay, 90 to 100. Okay, and GDX, which we don't trade but we track, looks as bad as it looks. Actually worse than gold.
Of course, and it should.
And as Andy tells you, it reacts bigger in both ways when it goes. And, it'd be something to watch that might give you some indication that it's going to reverse out. But again, right now,
And miners are leveraged, they're leveraged. They invest all this capital in these holes in the ground. And when gold doesn't do well, they do worse. And when gold does well, they do better. So it's not a surprise.
I think 30 is the key to watch there. Goldman Sachs, Gulf Sierra. Okay. And of course, we're still long Goldman as well. We're coming again. This is I think they banked, pardon the pun, too much on the potential hike in rates. But I think Wednesday will tell a big story for these guys because the higher rates go, the more money that they do make. So we'll see. In the meantime, 380 to 400. IWM India Whiskey Michael, okay, which is again looks pretty pathetic. Okay, we are long, but it looks pretty pathetic. I would not be surprised to see some sort of a change here. And again, we'll know that in the morning. I don't know now, but right now, 214 and 220. Mara, Volt. Mara, again, the Bitcoin. This is a miner. Where's my Bitcoin expert? Are you here? Let me see. Am I actually my Mara expert? Not my. Oh, you are here. Give me your point of view, please. In the meantime, it looks sick, like a dog. Okay, it looks like it wants to go down and continue to go down, very much like the cryptocurrency. Okay, I would say that probably I would not be surprised to see 32, and I think that it's probably 32 to 45 or 48. And you don't think it can move that far? Just look at it here. In 3 weeks, it's gone from 84 to 36. Okay. A new one we just started watching. This is a pot ETF. So again, we're not trading it yet, but it looks pretty bad. Like all the pot stocks looks like crap. Okay. The burning goes on. Okay. And there's nothing to do unless you want to gamble. NEO, November India Oscar. We're short and it continues to go lower. Now, again, you had a straight plummet. So all you're getting now is a relief of sideways action. Remember that.
The markets hate these Chinese stocks.
Yes. And these patterns, they need to level out. That if any of you watch the Bollinger Bands, okay, which I don't, but that's what these are based on, right? It's a reversion to the mean, and the mean continues to change. But you can't, when you get something that drops from 42 to 32, it's going to have either some consolidation or a bit of a rally, one of the two. In the meantime, for my money, I'm looking at this at like 30 to 35. Okay, we are short. Nugget, November Uniform Golf Tango, it looks exactly like GDX, and looks sick. Okay, 40. This could see 40. I'd make this 40 to 50, believe it or not. Okay. NVIDIA, November November Victor Delta Alpha, okay, which we are short, and of course we got hammered. Now, this is the correct correlation like that. Don't be surprised if you see a little bit of a pop. NVIDIA is a little bit of a very wild mover, so certainly a little bit of a rally would not be a surprise, but it could continue lower first. I mean, it isn't a downtrend, and it could break further, but at some point you're going to see, just like in markets, you're going to see some dead cat bounces. Okay. I'm not even sure, just flat and watching. Could go to 15. Okay. There you go. There's someone who trades it every day. Okay. That's about Mara. So in the meantime, right now, 270 to 300. Okay. Penn, just like DraftKings, got the same problem. Okay. We are short. So that's a good thing. Okay. And to me, now you're looking at 45. Okay, 45 is the next spot to look at. It's 45 to 55, but this was just 100 and something. Back it was 150 not that long ago. So you can see the devastation that can happen, and this could be anywhere. And believe me, at some point it's going to be in the equity markets in full as well in the futures. But right now, again, we're short this, but long in the markets. The Qs, no damage done. Really just consolidating, 390 to 400. Riot, now, wow. We started following this one with $6. It went to 80. Now I was back to 24 and could be headed further south. This is, again, going to track Bitcoin. It's a miner. It's somehow inverted with Mara for whatever reasons that was. It was higher first, then it became lower. I would think that you got to watch the 22 area, 2250, but it certainly could go significantly lower. This is right around here. 2250 is probably a major level of defense, and if it does not hold there, you better duck. Okay. Roku, Romeo Oscar Kilo Uniform, which we unfortunately got reversed out on this big spike up, and we're settling back down into back towards the bottom. I mean, this pattern itself, other than the spike, looks pretty weak as well. So we'll be looking for something here. But as I look at it, I would say, 200 to 240. The SPYs, no damage done. I mean, they're just hovering up at the highs. I would look at here, and this is probably 465, 464, and to the new highs. Square dance, Sierra, Quebec, which we are short, and it continues. Remember what I told you? If it got through 200, it was going to 170. Well, there it is. Then it popped, natural pop, and now we're back down testing the bottom again. And if it goes through 170, you're looking at 150 in a heartbeat. Okay. Tilray, boy, burn, baby, burn. Where's the dealer? I need some more drugs. It's continuous, and this is just another pot play. Okay, and this is the one I do like, just because it's Canadian and U.S. But look at it. Just look at it. I mean, again, it's like
they're burning cash. They're gonna have to. I mean, you don't be surprised to see some reverse splits in these stocks.
Would you think there'd be any consolidation in this industry? Some of these companies?
I think there should be M&A activity. I bet there will be next year. If this doesn't get better soon, there'll be a lot of M&A.
TQQ, Tango, Quebec. And look, this is just, again, no real damage done here. Okay. I mean, we're still chirping up towards the top. I would look at this at probably, 150 to 180. Tesla suddenly.
Hey, by the way, do you think that if they do have federal legislation that approves it, you think the CMA will roll out a marijuana contract?
100%.
I'm sure they're ready to go with it.
100%. There's a lot of growers out there that could use a contract.
Absolutely, they could use a hedge.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, I think there's probably one already ready to go.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
I mean, they just can't. They're
illegal unless it's federally legal.
That's the other thing that keeps these stocks down, and it keeps the game quieter, because nobody can deal with it. So
right. Exactly,
it becomes a bigger problem. I mean, Tesla suddenly fell apart. Okay, now again, overall, it still looks okay, but this is pretty nasty, and we don't trade it, but we would be short it. I think 920 is going to be a key spot here.
What did Elon Musk sell $10 billion worth of this stock?
Yeah, no,
not too surprising.
I mean, you got to cash in sometime.
Exactly. Especially when you have 300 billion on the table, you might as well take 10.
Right. And VXX, which we are still short. Again, it didn't really bounce that much today. When you think about it, it's from the pop, it continues to work its way lower, because this is nothing more than the big option. Okay. And it's ugly. I mean, 20 is probably support, 24 is probably resistance. But now, if you're not trading in the portfolios, I'm not a seller here. If it's not part of my portfolio model. Okay. If you're just, watching and you're here, again, this is, to me, at this level, I wouldn't be looking to start selling this, because I don't see as much value as I would be on the long side. I wouldn't be buying here, but if I was just entering for the first time, I wouldn't be selling here either. I think that you watch 20 to 24, win, Whiskey Yankee, November. And, we've seen this happen a number of times. We were in perfect shape, and we were short. First, we were long all the way in the rally, and then we got reversed. Now we're right where we reversed it about in that neighborhood. But my point is that it came crumbling down. There was some news out of Macau and some other areas, which win in Las Vegas Sands are very heavily involved in China as well. But the long-term trend looks pretty weak and pathetic. But I do believe that the casino stocks themselves are huge. I mean, you can see the business that they're doing, and I think that you're going to see much growth. But again, we're short right now, and long right now. And I would say, right now, 80 to 90, okay, is what I'd be watching here. XBI, X-Ray Bravo India, every week it just gets lower and lower. And we just keep saying, look for a spot to sell it. I mean, we don't cover this in the portfolios, but right now, this is now 108 to 116. And Zoom, okay, which I told you before, if it got below 240, it's probably going to break 200. And here we are at 180. And to me, 180 is going to be huge. And if that doesn't hold, God knows where it's going, because it came from 60. So it doesn't look very good. Black. And why is Black INC? I don't understand what you mean. Constellation Brands and Marlboro will own the business. Okay, that I wouldn't be surprised at that at all. Do you know what that means, Andy? Block, INC?
Why is it Block Inc. instead of Square? I think because he's so into
The name-
blockchain.
oh, they changed the name? It was Square.
It was Square, now it's Block.
I didn't even, I showed you how much I
He
watched
changed
it.
it because he's very much into these wild.
Well, the blockchain, look, forget about what you think about cryptocurrency in general, either positive or negative. Blockchain is here to stay.
Oh, absolutely. That's the fintech. That's financial technology.
That
But
is-
that's why he changed the name to Block.
I never knew that. How's that? Okay. But yeah, Constellation Brands, Ultra, all those
Right.
are, I think, is who's going to benefit from this pod, because I think the governments are,
A lot of dinners at the Palm in Washington, D.C. with the lobbyists for those companies saying, let them burn.
right.
Right.
Exactly. So in the meantime, again, it should be a challenging week with the Fed coming out. So as Andy mentioned, maybe expect an inside day tomorrow. And again, we can go anywhere because of today's big move. Right now, they just reopened. They're up a little bit. But obviously, it's not that
Never a
big.
good sign.
Not a good sign. Is correct.
No.
So really, the facts are, if this bull market is going to continue, then you really would prefer to see them open lower tomorrow and get rid of the rest of the weak hands. And if you have anything you want me to look at real quick, I'll be happy to do so. And next Monday will be our last call of 2021. Okay. Next Monday will be our last call of 2021. Stars STZ Sierra Tango Zulu is Constellation Brands. And of course, they're popping up nicely because they've got many products and they're in very good shape, very solid company. But in the meantime, all right, I guess nobody's got anything. Have a great week, everybody. Be careful. Remember that you could have a lot of action on the Fed. And Andy, any last thoughts from you, my brother?
Yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in, and have a good week and be careful.
Have a good week. We'll see you next week, and just be careful this weekend. Adios. We'll see you later.